Most people think heart health is something that requires big decisions, strict diets, major restrictions, or completely changing how they eat. It feels like if the change isn't dramatic, it probably doesn't matter. But here's the part most people don't notice. Some of the most meaningful improvements don't come from extreme changes. They come from small, consistent habits that quietly influence your body over time. And one of those habits is something so simple, it's easy to overlook. The herbs you add to your meals. At first, this doesn't sound important enough to matter. A small handful of herbs feels insignificant compared to everything else in your diet. But once you look closer, the role they play becomes more interesting. Because certain herbs contain natural compounds that are directly connected to some of the key processes involved in heart health, and that connection is where everything starts to shift. Cilantro is one of the clearest examples of this. It's often treated as a garnish, something added for freshness or color, but not something people think of as functional. That's where the misunderstanding begins. Cilantro contains plant compounds that are linked to how your body manages cholesterol, and that connection is one of the reasons it keeps appearing in conversations around heart health. These compounds, known as phytosterols, are associated with how your body absorbs cholesterol. They don't act like a medication, and they don't replace larger dietary patterns, but they contribute to a system that supports healthier cholesterol levels over time. And this is where a key idea becomes important. Cilantro is not a shortcut. It doesn't override everything else you do. It works as part of a broader pattern, and that pattern is what determines the outcome. But cholesterol is only one part of the story. Heart health is influenced by multiple systems working together, and this is where cilantro becomes more interesting than it first appears. It also contains compounds associated with the production of nitric oxide, a molecule that helps blood vessels relax and expand. When blood vessels are able to relax more effectively, circulation improves, and that supports healthier blood pressure levels. This is not something you feel instantly. It doesn't create a dramatic shift overnight. Instead, it contributes quietly, building over time through consistent intake. And that's exactly why it's easy to underestimate. Because the effect is not obvious in a single moment, but it becomes meaningful through repetition. There is also another layer that strengthens this connection, and it comes from antioxidants. Everyday life exposes your body to oxidative stress, which can influence how your cells function over time. This process is not something you notice directly, but it plays a role in long-term cardiovascular health. Cilantro contains antioxidant compounds that help your body manage that stress more effectively. And this is where something small begins to connect to something much larger. You are not just adding flavor to your meals. You are supporting how your body handles ongoing internal stress. Not in a dramatic way, but in a consistent one. And consistency is what your body responds to. But here's the part that makes this even more practical. The benefit of herbs is not only what they add, it's also what they replace. Most people rely heavily on salt, sauces, or processed additions to make food taste better. Over time, those choices can increase the very risk factors they are trying to avoid, especially when sodium intake becomes too high. Herbs offer an alternative. They enhance flavor without requiring those extra additions. So when you start using herbs like cilantro more regularly, you're not just adding something beneficial, you're often reducing something less helpful at the same time. And that double effect is what makes such a small change more powerful than it seems. This is also why this approach works in real life. It doesn't feel restrictive. You're not removing enjoyment from your meals. You're improving them in a way that feels natural. And that matters, because the changes that last are the ones that fit easily into your routine. If something feels forced, it rarely becomes consistent. But when something feels simple, it becomes part of what you do without thinking about it. That's what turns a small action into a long-term habit. At this point, another question naturally comes up. What if you don't like cilantro? This is more common than people expect. Some people experience a strong taste that makes it difficult to enjoy. But that doesn't mean the idea stops working. Cilantro is just one example of a broader pattern. Other herbs like parsley and basil contain their own combination of beneficial compounds that support similar processes in the body. So the focus is not on one specific herb, it's on the habit of using them regularly. And once you understand that, the approach becomes much more flexible. There is also something important about context. Herbs don't work in isolation. When you add them to meals that already include whole foods, vegetables, and balanced nutrients, they enhance the overall quality of that meal. They become part of a system that works together, rather than something you rely on individually. And that's how real results are built. Not from one change, but from multiple small improvements working together. Another detail that makes this even more effective is how easily herbs can be included in daily meals. They don't require complicated preparation. You don't need to redesign your entire diet. You simply add them to foods you're already eating. This lowers the barrier, which increases the chances that you'll continue doing it. And that consistency is what creates long-term results. Because the body doesn't respond to what you do once, it responds to what you do repeatedly. There's also an important shift that happens when you start focusing on small improvements like this. You become more aware of how your meals are built. You start noticing patterns, not just ingredients. You begin to understand how different choices influence how you feel over time. And that awareness naturally leads to better decisions without forcing them. It becomes part of your routine rather than something you have to think about constantly. This is where most people underestimate how progress actually works. They look for dramatic changes that promise fast results. But the body doesn't operate that way. It responds to consistency, not intensity. And something as simple as adding herbs regularly can become part of that consistency without requiring effort. That's what makes it powerful. It fits into your life without disrupting it. And once you start seeing it this way, the question changes. Instead of asking what major change you need to make, you start asking what small action you can repeat consistently. Because that's where real improvement begins. Not with something extreme, but with something sustainable. And herbs fit perfectly into that idea. They're small, easy to use, and capable of contributing to a larger pattern that supports your body over time. There's also a long-term perspective that most people don't consider enough. Heart health is not something that changes overnight. It develops over years of small, repeated behaviors. That means the things you do daily matter more than the things you do occasionally. And this is exactly where small habits like adding herbs become meaningful. They are easy to repeat, which makes them powerful over time. So the next time you prepare a meal, it might be worth paying attention to something that usually feels minor. Not just what you're eating, but how you're building it. Because something as simple as adding the right herb could be part of a pattern that supports your heart in a quiet but meaningful way. Not through one big change, but through small actions repeated consistently. And if you want more content that breaks down simple everyday habits like this, in a clear and practical way, without overcomplicating things, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Because the biggest improvements don't come from doing something extreme once. They come from doing something simple, consistently.